Fans, for the first time in 27 years, the New York Knicks are going to the NBA Finals. The dream season continues, and hopes of ending a decades-long championship drought are very much alive. The mutual respect and the brotherhood you see at the end of these series is always so impressive.
It is, and that's why they always talk. You don't talk in between series.
Chance of let's go Knicks. It's over. Believe it, Knicks fans, for the first time in 27 years, the New York Knicks are going to the NBA Finals. The dream season continues, and hopes of ending a decades-long championship drought are very much alive. The mutual respect and the brotherhood you see at the end of these series is always so impressive.
It is, and that's why they always talk. You don't talk in between series.
New York Knicks are heading to the NBA Finals. I mean, the New York Knicks haven't lost since Christmas. And each game, they have won by 50. And let me tell you, it's a bad night to be a cop in NYC. Place is gonna turn into fucking Gotham. These people have taken every team in front of them to the barn out back. They're gonna replace the Statue of Liberty with a statue of Landry Shamet tonight. And you know what? Fuck it. I'm telling my kids Shamet was SGA. You're looking at a back-to-back MVP, kids. I mean, this guy hasn't missed a three-pointer since the ball dropped in Manhattan. It's nothing but chopped cheese and wet threes. They better start boarding up NYC. Like the purge is coming. They're gonna replace the Big Apple with Brunson's head. Watching this game was like hearing the violins on the deck of the Titanic. Because New York is about to sink because they have a basketball team on their hands. Chalamet got Jenner to go to Cleveland. That's like getting the Pope to go to a Diddy party. I'm wondering if Jalen Brunson's the greatest Knick ever, or if it's Landry Shamet. So good night to all Knicks fans. You deserve this. You could fuck around and win this whole thing. But you better get some rest because you have one hell of a series ahead.
To hand that Eastern Conference trophy to Jalen?
Oh yeah, it's been a long time, and carrying on the tradition, passing it down to Jalen. So he's the guy now that has to carry it. But you got to capitalize when you get there, So we're gonna stay on him. As Red Holzman would tell us at this point, hey Clyde, we ain't won nothing yet.
What was it like for you and Pat to hand that Eastern Conference trophy to Jalen?
Oh yeah, it's been a long time, and carrying on the tradition, passing it down to Jalen. So he's the guy now that has to carry it. But you got to capitalize when you get there, So we're gonna stay on him. As Red Holzman would tell us at this point, hey Clyde, we ain't won nothing yet.
Shalom. All praise to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakak Badash, and double honor to our apostles, elders, and bishops here at Great Millstone for teaching His truth. That's going all around the earth. And shalom to the hopeful elect out there. It's your brother Atazwan back at it again. and we're going to do a little light lesson on the few clips that I put in concerning, all right, the whole euphoric feeling that these fanatics have concerning the NBA and particularly the New York Knicks, right? Whom, as they say, have advanced to the finals, right, of quote unquote the World Championship. Now, why they always say that, I have no idea because they didn't play other teams in the world, but whatever, right? But we see these people going nuts over their advancement into the final round. And, this was just a way to make a lesson about really the trappings of this world, so to speak, all right? Because in a couple of those clips, you see the celebrities, right, that are attending all of these events and games and so on and so forth. And, here it is, this country is on its last leg, man. The Most High is destroying this place right in front of their faces. And it appears that these people are oblivious as to what's going on. And partly, I would have to say, because, why? They've done well in the world, right? You see the little nigga, frog face, Spike Lee, and what's that dude's name? Tracy Morgan. All right, these are celebrities of the world, who appear to be Jakes, because you never know. Spike Lee, this is just my personal thought. Spike Lee always reminded me of a shyster, old Jewish man. When he speaks, he sounds like an old Jewish man from New York. But anyway, so you see these people are all elated, because the New York Knicks have not been to the championship, won a championship since, 72, 73 season, somewhere in there like that. So it's been quite a while, right? 50 years or better, okay? And, it is what it is. People enjoy what they enjoy. I no longer watch it. I've stopped watching it many years ago, Now, I used to enjoy sports, but I don't enjoy it anymore. And, that's just a spiritual maturity for me. I'm not knocking a brother or sister that like to watch sports. I'm just saying, realize, we all realize what we're looking at, but just looking at the people of the world, as it were, right, who think this shit is real, okay, that the fix isn't in, year after year after year. This is why you get sports, all year round, right? It used to be a time where, the seasons you had a break between seasons of each major sport, but it's no longer like that. It's all year round, okay? But anyway, we're going to get into a little lesson about that, about the ways of the world, okay? And first, let me get this. Just to go into it, as things are getting worse here for the average everyday person, average everyday worker, people are losing it in more ways than one, losing their grip on the world. They're losing their train of thought. They're losing their jobs, their homes, everything that they work for. And here it is, the whole spectacle of sport, okay? Trying to act as if there's nothing going on. Everything's just perfectly fine with everybody, which is not the case, okay? So let's look at that word fan, right? That word fan comes from this word fanatic. And it reads, a fanatic is a person characterized by an extreme, uncritical, and often irrational devotion to a cause, belief, or activity. While the word, let me see if I can highlight it. While the word can be used informally to describe someone intensely passionate about a hobby, like a sports fanatic, it usually carries a negative connotation of lacking tolerance and moderation, right? And that's what happens. Here you got this nigga, Tracy Morgan, standing there crying over the Knicks going on to the next round. Shit, I mean, Really, is it that serious, man? No, it can't be that serious. All right, and by the way he looks, Lord have mercy. Don't let that dude tune up and start showing that face, crying. We don't need to see that. But anyway, here it says intense zeal, right? An unwavering, consuming obsession with an idea of pursuit, uncritical devotion, the inability to question or objectively evaluate the object of their fanaticism, okay, often accompanied by a rejection of or hostility towards different opinions or opposing. Now let's go into the origin of it, and it says the word originates from the Latin fanaticus, which originally meant of or pertaining to a temple. Over time, it shifted to describe people who exhibit wild, frenzied, or God-inspired behavior. In fact, the everyday word fan, quote unquote, is simply a short version of fanatic, right? It goes on, and it says, let's see, politics of religion, Slovakia, often used to describe extremists who hold radical views and refuse to compromise. Hobbies or interests can be a playful way of describing someone with extreme enthusiasm for a sports team, a band, or a diet. Would you like to see how? No, we don't need to see anything else. I think that's all we need right there, right? So that's where you get the word fan from, in case there's a brother or sister out there, who didn't know where that term comes from, okay? All right. And what you're seeing now, as we'll pull up this definition, is the bread and circus of Babylon the Great, to keep you confused, to keep you off kilter, right? To keep you off balance, so that you don't look at the world stage and what actually is going on. And all of this is being orchestrated by Yahweh, by Shem Yahushai, okay? There's no doubt about it as to what you're seeing, okay? It says bread and circus, okay, is penem et circenses, is a political metaphor describing how governments use superficial pacification, such as free food and entertainment, and that's all sport is right now, is entertainment. I can remember coming up, and, you liked a certain team, and even a working man could take his kids to a ball game, because it was affordable. But now these games that you see are for the rich, just to get a seat in the place. If you was to go to an arena, especially a game like that, you probably would spend over $500 per person, right, just to get in the building. You see what I'm saying? So it's no longer just something that, just the average everyday Joe could take his kids to anymore. It's no longer like that. Everything is corporate, all right? And then when you look behind the scenes of everything, you know that the tiny tops are the ones who own all of that stuff. Everything from the paraphernalia to the clothing, the hats, the shirts, so on and so forth. All of the sports gear, the arenas, the tiny tops are behind it. Even the ownership of the leagues, they're at the top of it. You see? So, keeping all of that in mind, once I came into the truth, I understood all of that. And it was like, I really don't support it. Okay? All right, but that, like I said, that's just my preference. I'm not knocking nobody that actually follows it. Okay? But just my point of view, all right, as it were. Going on, it says, the phrase stems from Roman history and remains a popular concept today. And if Jake you just think about it. If Jake would not support any of this stuff, they would go broke. You know it? Because I think it was a week or so ago, I did a lesson concerning, I think I did it on women. I can't remember the name of the lesson. And how Esau has got you renting your life. Your life is a subscription now. See, again, in past years, you used to be able to watch all your sporting events for free, okay? And then you got Cable TV. So now you have to pay to get on cable TV in order to see the events that you would normally watch for free. Then it goes into being dish. Then it goes into being what? Streaming, and so on and so on and so on, to where you have to pay for everything, you know. Now, of course, you know, Salakia, through YouTube, you get to see highlights and the results after it's over, okay? But now you have to, you know, subscribe to your own life. That's how Esau wants it, okay? You can't enjoy anything freely without having to pay a fee, you know. Pretty soon they'll be charging you for just a walk in the park. Going on, it says ancient Rome, the origins, coined by the Roman poet Juvenal in the 1st century CE. The term describes how emperors kept the Roman populace docile by handing out free grain, bread, and hosting massive, lavish spectacles like gladiator fights and chariot races, which is basically all you're seeing in the sporting world. Okay, everything is inside a coliseum or an arena of some sort. You know, and mostly what you see, is Jake going against each other for their sport and for their entertainment. See, because Esau, Edom, especially Amalek, has never had any damn talent. They became rich through what? The Israelites. When you think about it, I don't give a damn if it's NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, whatever it is. They use Jake to make all their billions and trillions of dollars, right? That's common knowledge, okay? Let's see here. Where do we leave off? Rulers prevented civil unrest. Juvenal used the phrase to criticize everyday citizens who traded their ancient political power and civic duty for basic survival and mindless amusement, you see? And that's what you have. It's mindless amusement, you know, but now it's for those who can afford it, all right? Slovakia. Let's go on a little bit. In modern political and cultural context, the term refers to any strategy where authorities distract the public, diverting attention from real, societal problems or government scandals. You see? And that's why all of this shit is going on, and they're making a big deal about it. You know, of course, Amalek owns the media, okay? Pacify discontent, offering quick fix benefits or entertainment rather than solving underlying systematic issues. You see? That's all sport is. It's entertainment and to keep you preoccupied so that you don't concentrate on how they sticking it to you, okay? Common culture examples include highly publicized celebrity trials, nonstop digital entertainment, or prioritizing sports and television over vital civic discourse, you see? And that's what it is. It's bread and circus. It's what you watching. And here you got them two ugly niggas crying, laughing, yucking it up, okay, because why? They're rich enough to be in the building, you know, or whatever the case. In which, nobody's mad over that, but, you know, you have to look at things in a pure sight and understand what's actually going on in front of you, okay? And neither one of them guys, and you seen, what was her name? Gail King, seen her coming out in one of those games, you know, and they filming everybody coming in, going out, what they wearing, what they eating, where they sitting, so on and so on and so on. It's all a spectacle. But them Jakes, you know, since they so well to do in the earth, they would never give it up, right? Because they don't want to be poor, okay? They don't want to be outside of the fanfare and the popularity, all right, that they enjoy so much in this world, okay? And so what I'm going to do now, we're going to go to the first scripture. And Salakia for being long-winded on that, but, you know, just the premise of, you know, being so entrenched in the world and having fans yell out your name, you know, you feel like you somebody, okay? And they would never give that up. They would never give up that status that they're living in, okay? Here is Hebrews 11 and, matter of fact, let's see here. And 23. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents because they saw he was a proper child, and they were not afraid of the king's commandment. By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. Okay? Choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of the Most High than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. You see, and these people, these so-called black celebrities, they're enjoying, right, their pleasures of sin, because they haven't repented. If they be Israelites, right, let's just, for face value, say, yeah, they Jakes, but they have the privilege of the world. You see, they can get tickets to conference finals and final games, and they could get on jets and fly out to wherever they playing, go to all the road trips, and because they ain't working, or whatever, they got enough money to do it, and so on, right? While the world is going to hell in a handbasket, so to speak, these people are crying, over a team winning a game. It's ridiculous. Okay? Anyway, going on to verse 26, esteeming the reproach of Mashiach greater riches than the treasures of Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. You see? So what us brothers and sisters have in this truth far outweighs what you could ever gain in the world. You see? And then again, you have to throw this in there. Somebody got to be the 2/3. Okay? All right? Verse 27, by faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. Through faith he kept the Passover and the sprinkling of blood, lest he that destroyeth the firstborn should touch them. By faith they passed through the Red Sea as by dry land, which the Egyptians, saying to do, were drowned. You see? So the whole point being is, Moses, though he lived in a palace, right, amongst Pharaoh and was rich and considered a son and so on and so forth, when, he understood that he was an Israelite, right, let's just put it in just a common term, he left that life, right, to suffer with his own people. But you wouldn't dare ask Tracy Morgan, all right, to give up all his millions, right, that he got through his career, that he got from that, that accident he had with the Walmart truck, that paid him millions of dollars and so on. All right, he would never give that up. He would never give up the spotlight, Anyway, let's go to Jeremiah 16, start right here at the top. It reads, the word of the Lord Yahweh came unto me, saying, thou shalt not take thee a wife, neither shalt thou have sons or daughters in this place. For thus saith the Lord concerning the sons and concerning the daughters that are born in this place, and concerning their mothers that bear them, and concerning their fathers that beget them in this land. They shall die a grievous death. They shall not be lamented, neither shall they be buried, but they shall be as dung upon the face of the earth, and they shall be consumed by the sword and by famine, and their carcasses shall be meat for the fowls of heaven and for the beasts of the earth. For thus saith the Lord, enter not into the house of mourning, neither go to lament nor bemoan them, for I have taken away my peace from this people, saith the Lord Yahweh, even even loving kindness and mercies. But the great and the small shall die in this land. They shall not be buried, neither shall men lament for them, nor cut themselves, nor make themselves bald for them, neither shall men tear themselves for them in mourning, to comfort them for the dead, neither shall men give them the cup of consolation to drink for their father or for their mother. Thou shalt not also go into the house of feasting to sit with them to eat and to drink. It sounds a lot like what's getting ready to happen to this place, Babylon the Great. You see? Because it's happened in a time past, but it's coming back again. And this will be the ultimate destruction, right, of these niggas, all right, who are enjoying and reveling in life, okay, and think there will be no consequences, right, for them rejecting the word of the Lord, okay? And you can't tell me that Spike Lee and Tracy Morgan and the likes are all these, Jakes out here, haven't heard the gospel, okay? But it's just not for them, you see, but they'll be destroyed. As it said, the great and the small in this land, okay? That's coming to Babylon the Great. Verse 9, for thus saith the Lord of hosts, the power of Israel, behold, I will cause to cease out of this place in your eyes and in your days the voice of mirth, right? And that's what they're all, jubilated over is a damn basketball team in which you don't own none of it. All that money that's coming into the league, you dumb niggas, just because you got a few $50 million, and you can afford to pay for a ticket, you act like you did something out there on that court and you're going to get a piece of it. These tiny tops are the ones that own all of this stuff, okay? In your eyes and in your days, the voice of mirth and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride. And it shall come to pass when thou shalt show this people all these words that they shall say unto thee, wherefore hath the Lord pronounced this great evil against us? Or what is our iniquity? Right. See, nigga played dumb, like he didn't know what he was doing. When destruction come upon his ass, then he going to want to know why. You see? Or what is our sin that we have committed against the Lord our power? Then shalt thou say unto them, because your fathers have forsaken me, saith the Lord, and have walked after other gods and being fanatics, about sporting life, okay, and not honoring the true God. That could be a way, okay, that you could say that you've forsaken the Lord, because they know about the gospel of truth, okay? They know that men are preaching the truth out here in the streets, on the internet and so on. All right. Going back into verse 11, it says, and have walked after other gods and have served them and have worshipped them and have forsaken me and have not kept my law. Right. Dressed all up in the colors and so on and so forth. Okay. That's a way of worshiping the Knickerbockers. I could say something there, but I won't. Anyway, going on to verse 12, it says, and ye have done worse than your fathers, for behold, ye walk after one after the imagination of his evil heart, and they may not hearken unto me. Therefore will I cast you out of the land into a land that ye know not, neither ye nor your fathers, and there shall ye serve other gods day and night, where I will not show you favor, right? And so here we are on this side of the world, living in this raggedy ass place, and 2/3 of our people are doing the same thing that they've always done, and yet will not repent. So destruction is slated for them. No matter how famous they may be, how much attention that they get, how much money that they have and make, they're slated for destruction, okay? Now, out of curiosity, I went and pulled this up, and it's probably not accurate. It's probably more to it than this, but this is just a baseline, okay? The NFL, NBA, MLB, and NHL generates a combined total of $50 billion annually. I think that's not accurate. I think it's more than that, way more than that. The National Football League is the highest grossing sport league in the world, followed by the National Basketball Association, Major League Baseball, and the National Hockey League. All right, annual revenue estimates for each league included. So you see it right there. But that if that number were true, which I don't think it is, because I don't know if it's being added for concessions, memorabilia such as your jerseys and ball caps and jackets and socks, all that kind of, because each league has their own store. Okay, then you got to have the TV contracts and so on. All right, I think it's way more than this. But this will give you an idea that this is annually. This is not a one-time thing, okay? So it runs in the trillions of dollars, all right, over a period of 2 or 3 seasons, okay? And who's getting all of that? You know, and you got Jake out here, some of these Jakes, they busting their ass just so that they can get enough money to go to a game. Okay? So that's just an idea of what it could potentially generate. All right. And like I said, I'm not knocking anybody that goes, but it's just, take these things for what they are. You know what I mean? Let's go over to Luke. And Luke 17, we're jumping right here because, this is something that came to mind as we see what's going on in the world today. All right. Jake is hella distracted. Okay. Verse 26, Slakia, Luke 17:26. And as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it also in the days of the Son of Man, Slakia. So shall it be also in the days of the Son of Man. They did eat, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. And that's how the Son of Man, the return of the Son of Man, that's how it's going to be. In the day of the Lord, these people are going to look up and they're going to wonder what the hell is going on, right? And then that's when it's going to hit them, but it's going to be too late. Verse 28, likewise also as it was in the days of Lot. They did eat, they drank and bought, they sold, they planted, they built it, right? Going on with everyday life, okay? But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. In that day, he which shall be upon the housetop and his stuff in the house, let him not come down to take it away. And he that is in the field, let him likewise not return back. Remember Lot's wife. Whosoever shall seek to save his life shall lose it, and whosoever shall lose his life shall preserve it. Okay? And we can stop right there. You get the point. So in that day of destruction, the wise, because this had happened, during the time of 70 AD, but even so much now, when you think about it, the return or the day of the Lord is going to be something fierce. Okay? All right? And so the elect, Lord's will, those of us who are in this truth, the Lord will deliver us in that time. All right? And we're not concerned about the things of the world. Okay? Hey, these niggas, you win, here it is, the Lord is destroying this place and you worried about trying to find you a hole to go jump in, but wait a minute, let me get my MVP trophy and take that with me, let me get my Louis Vuitton Diviner tennis shoes that I had Michael Jordan sign. I got to take them with me. No, you ain't gonna have time for none of that. You see? But we're not concerned with these things of the world. I'm making light of it, but it's a serious matter, just so that you can understand. All right, so this is Mark 4, and up above it is talking about the parable of the seed sower. All right, but here let's jump in at verse 13. It says, "And he said unto me, Know ye not this parable? And how then will ye know all parables? The sower soweth the word." Right, and we're the sowers of the day, sowing the word of truth in the earth. Okay, and these are they by the wayside where the word is sown. But when they have heard, Satan cometh immediately and taketh away the word that was sown in their hearts. Because you got a lot of people that come up and they'll listen to the word and, and then they'll walk away, but really didn't gain anything, So you got all these different scenarios where then, as it goes on to say, we'll read it. Let's just read it. Verse 16, and these are they likewise which are sown on the stony ground, who, when they have heard the word, immediately receive it with gladness, and have no root in themselves, and so endure but for a time. Afterward, when affliction or persecution arises from the world, so like for the word's sake, immediately they are offended. So then you got those that are, they're glad to know that they're Israelite, and they okay, what's the Lord's name? And they then, something happened to them in the world, and they forget all about it. It's not profitable. You see? Verse 18, and these are they which are sown among thorns, such as hear the word, and the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches and the lust of other things enter in, choke the word, and it becometh unfruitful. Right? So you got to figure that there's a lot of these sports stars, athletes, entertainers, movie stars, rappers, singers, dancers, whatever you want to say. They've heard this word of truth, man, but those riches got a hold to them. You see, those events got a hold of them, right? And it chokes the word in them. Verse 20, and these are they which are sown on good ground, such as hear the word and receive it and bring forth fruit, some 30-fold, some 60, and some 100, right? And that would be the true believers, the elect of the Lord, who will, distribute this word, who will proclaim this word, all right, and be in the truth, versus those who hear it and they give a little thought to it, and some, they receive it with gladness, and then here comes something in the world that shakes them up, and then they lose faith, and so on, okay? It didn't have any root in them. And that just means that they weren't selected, okay? This is Proverbs. We'll get a couple more. Proverbs 17, it says, let not thine heart envy sinners, but be thou in the fear of the Lord all the day long, right? So we don't envy these people who are unrepentant, these 2/3 ass jakes out here, Yeah, you may sign a $280 million ball contract and got you an apparel deal through one of these other heathenistic apparel companies, Adidas, Nike, whatever the case may be, and you got another $200 million, so you sitting good, right? But you're unrepentant if you're a Jake, okay? We don't envy you, you see. Verse 18, for surely there is an end, and thine expectation shall not be cut off, right? Those of us that believe and fear the Lord, we have an expectation, and that is salvation and deliverance from this place, okay? To put it bluntly, let me see here, Revelation 18:1, and it reads, and after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lighted with his glory. And he cried mighty with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk, Salakia, of the wine of her wrath. Salakia. Let's start that again, verse 3. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, that ye receive not of her plagues, right? And that's our mindset of rejecting this place, of coming out of the ways of Babylon the Great, okay? For her sins have reached unto heaven, and the Most High have remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works. In the cup which she hath filled, fill to her double. How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her, for she saith in her heart, I sit a queen and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. And that's how these people in Babylon, because of the government, have got you all convinced. You worldly people here in Babylon the Great, you Babylonian citizens, you're not cognitive of what's going on in the world. Bread and circus, remember? Bread and circus. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord power who judges her, right? So when the day of the Lord comes and those nukes are flying and the chariots are in the sky, as it says in one scripture, there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. You see, destruction is here, all right? And that's what's going to happen to this place. So, as the saying goes, laugh now, you'll cry later. All praise to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Wachak Wadash, and double honor to our apostles and elders, great millstone. Shalom to the hopeful elect, Lord willing. I'll see you again real soon with another lesson. Shalom.